Good morning, I'm the Reverend Steve Page from St. Patrick's Anglican Church, and you're listening to the Daily Devotional, sponsored by the Hudson Bay Ministerial. This month, our images of Christian faith and spirituality come from the wonderful world of sports. This is my final devotional of the month. I hope you have enjoyed them and found them spiritually helpful. If you missed any, call the church office at 3488 or check out my blog, pladegnog.blogspot.com. With the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, let's end with a football lesson. Let's go back to Super Bowl 22 between the Washington Redskins and the Denver Broncos. And as always, to talk a sport, I need to put on a jersey of that sport just so that I can think more football-y sorts of thoughts. So this game, Super Bowl 22, was in January 1988, the Skins and the Broncos, and one of the biggest storylines heading into that game was that Washington's Doug Williams would be the first ever African-American quarterback to start a Super Bowl. He entered the league a decade earlier as a highly touted first-round draft pick, but a somewhat disappointing career landed him in the role of backup quarterback for the Redskins, about his third team by that point in his career. But Washington head coach Joe Gibbs chose his backup quarterback as the starter for the Super Bowl. It was not a total surprise, as Williams had been playing better than starting quarterback Jay Schrader over the last few games. A bigger surprise was Gibbs choosing rookie running back Timmy Smith for his first ever NFL start in the Super Bowl. Well, the game started, and the first quarter was all Denver as the Broncos opened up a 10-0 lead. But Washington came storming back in the second quarter. In fact, they scored a Super Bowl record 35 points with 5 touchdowns in the second quarter. It started with a bang on an 80-yard catch and run by Ricky Sanders. And then a few minutes later, Gary Clark made a diving catch in the end zone for a 27-yard touchdown. Then their next drive took only 2 plays, capped by rookie Timmy Smith's 58-yard touchdown run. And another long touchdown reception by Ricky Sanders, this time for 50 yards, made the score 28-10 Washington very quickly. But they still were not done. A 43-yard run by Timmy Smith set up an 8-yard touchdown toss from Williams to Clint Didier. They went into the halftime break with the seemingly insurmountable 35-10 lead, en route to a 42-10 victory in the Super Bowl. And along the way, they set a pack of Super Bowl records, like most total yards, most points in a quarter, and many more. And some of those records have been broken since 1988, but one that still stands is rookie Timmy Smith's record for most rushing yards in one Super Bowl. He finished his first ever NFL start with an amazing 204 yards on the ground. And Doug Williams, the backup who became the starter, he was named the game's MVP for his play in the game. Coach Joe Gibbs chose a couple unlikely starters in Williams, his backup quarterback, and Smith, his rookie running back. But they rose to the occasion in spectacular fashion. The Bible tells us that God chooses us as well. We are chosen to be a part of His people. St. Peter writes, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light." God has chosen us and has a mission for us, a role to play in God's own mission in the world, one that has been in the works since the very beginning. We are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. Well, you might think, who, me? God chose me to help in His mission in the world? Sometimes the choice is obvious, someone who just has the right set of skills. Of course, God is choosing them. But God delights in choosing and preparing surprising people for key roles. Think of the Bible stories of David or the disciples. David was the youngest son. There were at least 7 older boys in Jesse's family in the little village of Bethlehem. But David was God's choice to become king, and what a king he became. Or the disciples. Many of them were fishermen and laborers. They are described as unschooled, ordinary men in the book of Acts. But God chose them for the job of launching the church after the death and resurrection and ascension of Jesus. You are chosen by God for a special relationship with Him and for a special purpose. No matter if you are a backup or a rookie or ideally fit for your situation, God will prepare you. Are you up for it? Thanks for joining me over the past month. For St. Patrick's Church, I'm Steve Page.